Years are to be enjoyed, not endured.
Okay, welcome back to Clout 941. We're talking about defending homicide cases. Adam, before we move on, I just want to go back to the last thing that we were talking about. As attorneys, we try to sort of emotionally wall off whatever our clients did from what our job is. But was there ever a time where that's tough for you, where it's just, God, I can't believe I have to do this?
Well, I think it's tough in every case because I'm a very empathetic person. I like people, and that's why I took the job that I did. And so I have a lot of compassion for the families of the survivors. I understand the pain that they're going through. I know that the court system is unlikely to be able to alleviate that pain. In fact, I talked with other attorneys about reaching out to the families in serious cases like this to at least make ourselves known and available to the families. We can answer any procedural questions, and that helped alleviate some of the tension in the courtrooms on some of my cases.
You mean the families of your client?
No, not only the families of my client, but also the surviving family members of the deceased victim in the case. Because, the courtroom's a funny place. You might have the family of the deceased on one side of the courtroom and the family of the defendant on the other side. And steps need to be taken so that people can relate to one another and somehow deal with all of this pain that is in the courtroom.
I have had that happen. I have had victims' families try to, communicate with me and stuff during cases. They sort of want to know something about the process, and sometimes they aren't getting it from law enforcement. What are your feelings about the death penalty in general, just in terms of from policy?
Well, I think that the death penalty is a terrible policy for the state of Florida, and one reason for that is, quite honestly, it's a lie to the families of the victims. The state attorney tells the victim's family that we're going to go after the death penalty, and they hold this out as the ideal of justice. And they ask people to put their lives on hold for 20 years or 30 years that it may take to actually implement an execution. But meanwhile, everyone who's part of the criminal justice system knows that the chances of a meteor hitting the courthouse and killing the defendant are better than him actually being executed. And so I just think it's terrible that we put the families through this process when we know that it's false.
Is that your primary reason why you're against the death penalty, is because of the length of time and the expense involved in the appellate process, or are there other reasons?
Ron, as both of us are involved in the criminal justice system, we know it's not perfect. We know that people make mistakes. I make mistakes on a daily basis. Law enforcement officers make mistakes. And when we're talking about taking someone's life in the judicial system, we want to be certain. And we can't achieve that level of certainty. Even if we know that this is the person who caused the death, there's a second question. Are they deserving of the death penalty in comparison to all of the other defendants who are out there? Or are there racial considerations that are taking place? Are there socioeconomic considerations that are taking place? And because of all of these unanswered questions, we can't get it right. We have tinkered with our capital punishment system since 1973, and we still don't have it right.
The application of the death penalty here in this judicial circuit, the 12th Judicial Circuit, do you think that it's been applied fairly, or have you seen patterns with the way that they seek the death penalty? What's your opinion?
It's difficult to answer that, particularly since I was so personally involved with these cases. But I would point out that pretty much throughout the 1990s, the state attorney's office very rarely looked for the death penalty in this area. Sure. And one reason is because the defense attorneys, myself included, were having a great deal of success in the courtroom arguing against the death penalty. And I think the state attorney's office saw it for what it was, sort of a waste of time and resources. But round about 2001 or so, there was a change in the attitudes at the state attorney's office, and all of a sudden they started looking for the death penalty in a lot more cases.
One last question on that subject. When I read the comments of Nathan Lee, Denise Lee's husband, in the newspaper, it seemed to me that that was a compelling argument for the death penalty. And what he said, the reason why he wants to see the death penalty in that case, is because the defendant has memories of his wife in his head, and they may bring the defendant joy, and that he doesn't want the defendant to have those memories anymore, so he wants his life to end. That's a compelling argument.
I understand the pain that any surviving family member has. I understand that they want the ultimate punishment, and I am not one to argue with that need. But if we took death off the table and made life imprisonment the ultimate punishment, we could forget about these defendants. They would be sentenced, they would be gone, there would be no more court dates. Now, instead, for any case, we're looking at bringing those family members back year after year and torturing them with the memories of their loved one.
Okay, that's it for the death penalty. We're going to take our last break, and we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about this topic with former Assistant Public Defender and criminal defense lawyer Adam Tebrugge.